The world has never been wealthier or more advanced technologically, yet hunger still stalks tens of millions globally. 122 million more people now face hunger than in 2019, and now nearly 20% of the 1.4 billion people across Africa face hunger. Earlier today, I spoke with the executive director of the UN's World Food Program, Cindy McCain. She warns that the crisis could worsen without global action. World Food Program Executive Director Cindy McCain, welcome back to the NewsHour. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
So you were joining us from Juba in South Sudan. You've been visiting the border region between Chad and Sudan, where hunger, as you've said before, is being driven by both conflict and the climate crisis. Just give us a sense of what you saw on the ground.
Well, South Sudan right now is very lush looking because it's had so much rain. But what we're really seeing is a lot of impact from flooding. And there is climate change for you right there. So there's various regions that have been hit very hard. Some of the dikes are blown out, and some that are not doing so bad. The problem is that people, because it's been continuously flooding for so many years, people have had to leave their homes. And so you see a vast surface, from the air, and then there's all these empty, farm plots and everything all along. So it's disrupted life completely. And consequently, there's people that are very, very much in need of food, and they're very hungry.
When you're talking about the scale of need that you yourself have witnessed there, what are we talking about?
Oh, it's enormous. These people are, for the most part, on the brink of starvation. And, and of course, conflict, you add conflict to this, which is part of the refugees coming over the border, fleeing conflict in the north, and conflict that has already existed here. It complicates everything. The people, for most of their lives, many of them have been running from one place to another to escape it. So there's a lot of people that are either in refugee camps or just on their own out in the bush trying to survive on whatever they can find. And there just isn't any food.
Your work, we think about the World Food Program and we think about food aid and cash assistance and so on. You've also been focusing a lot on food resilience.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What are some examples of that on the ground?
When you talk about emergency food, that's the people that are coming over the border that have nothing to exist on, that are 6 months in and still have nothing to exist on. That's emergency, but that's not the solution. The solution is resilience, the ability to give people the tools to begin to farm and farm their own land so that they not only can feed themselves, but they can feed their communities. And that way there's an economic portion to this. It's the only way we're going to solve the problem of hunger is resilience and making sure that people can feed themselves.
In terms of meeting the emergency need, though, this past weekend, an official from the World Food Program said in at least 38 of the 86 countries that you operate in, you've already had to cut aid or may soon have to cut aid. In Syria, for example, about 5.5 million people who rely on you for food, you had to cut their rations. What does that look like day to day on the ground for these folks?
Oh, it's heart-wrenching. I've seen it, 3 or 4 times just here, and then many times in other countries. People, being told that, you only have 3 weeks left, or you're up on your 6-month mark and we can't supply food anymore. It's tragic because they don't have any other place to go. But we don't have a choice at this point because we don't have enough money. There are so many crises going on, so we're spread very thin. Literally here in Sudan, we're 400 million short to be able to just keep things at an even keel here. It's a lot of money.
Why do you believe you've seen a drop in donations? What's driving that?
Oh, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there's a little bit of donor fatigue in it because we were pushing when Ukraine hit, pushing when the earthquake hit, of course. I think people are just, they're stretched thin and they're a little tired right now. So it's up to us at WFP to reinvigorate this discussion, make sure people understand the importance and really where it sits in how this could be very disruptive to the world if we don't help.
Well, speaking of Ukraine, as you know, there was a Green Deal in place whereby Russian President Vladimir Putin was allowing for the export of that crucial grain from Ukraine through the Black Sea. That deal has now fallen apart. How will that impact your work?
Well, it's impacting a great deal because some of that grain came to Africa. So we're going to have to source grain another way. And we can do that. We're going to do that, and we are doing it to a degree. But I'm disappointed. I mean, this is you're only hurting the most needy people in the world by doing this, and so it's a real shame that somehow we have to once again tell people who can't feed themselves that we don't have enough because the grain isn't there, and so that drives up starvation. It drives up malnutrition. It drives up illness, disease, everything else that comes around with a weakened body. And so I'm just very disappointed in the whole thing. And I'm hoping that clearer heads prevail and that we can once again put this deal back together.
There was a senior administration official from the Biden administration yesterday talking to reporters about the agenda for the UN Security Council.
Mm-hmm.
And that person said that food security is consistently a top priority. Do you see that? Do you see those words matching their actions?
Yes, I do believe that is happening. But that's partially because WFP and other organizations have literally rang the alarm bells. We all went forward to our various entities that we talked to, and certainly the UN, and said, look, you got to put this on the table front and center. And so we all started doing that just prior and just before Ukraine broke. And then consequently afterwards, it's front and center everywhere.
As you know, some of the same conflicts in the same nations can often dominate some of the global headlines. You've been out on the road, on the front lines of WFP's work. Where else should we be looking that we're not?
Well, we haven't, I was in Chad, as you know. I was just a couple, maybe 10 days ago on the Chad border, and we've also been to Somalia and some other regional places around. And what we're seeing is a continued hesitancy on the part of many countries to get involved and be involved and give more than they are. And I think the hesitancy is a lot because of the instability. And so WFP is always first in, and we stay, and we are not leaving any of these countries at all. We are here, but we do need funding, and we do need extra help.
The executive director of the World Food Program, Cindy McCain, joining us tonight from South Sudan. Mrs. McCain, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.